Got a bunch of stuff. First item is this pair of Prana shorts. I talked about it, I think, in the last video. Prana pants and shorts, I would say, are universally good pickups regardless of seasonality, just because depending on the season, one of the two are going to be in really high demand. Prana bottoms are my favorite thing to pick up from Prana. The tops don't do nearly as well. Heavy duty pair of cargo shorts that I think I'm going to list as hiking shorts depending on what keywords that pulls up. It is from Duluth Trading Co. Another brand that was in my last video. Really solid bread and butter brand. Just noticed a little bit of stretching here at the bottom. This is a teachable thing. So do you see how this little patch right here is a little distended, a little wavy? That's because there's some kind of spandex or elastane content in the fabric, and the fabric, if it gets stretched beyond its capacity to stretch, develops that ruffled texture. That's really common in women's pants, women's jeans. You'll see it around the crotch. That is best avoided if you can avoid it. Something like this that's a men's piece and a not conspicuous spot for a purpose-oriented article of clothing like hiking shorts, not going to be a deal breaker. I did get all of these at 50% off. There was a weird Valentine's Day sale going on where you could draw a slip of paper out of a little tin and you would either get 20% off or 50% off. I got 50% off. These were not half off. These didn't count. This is the extremely rare boot pickup for me. I almost never touch boots anymore, even less than I do shoes. The brand, you can kind of see it spelled out in both of them. It's Petri or Petri. And these are what are called dressage boots. These are worn by people riding horses, I think in formal presentations like shows. This is really thick, stiff leather, and these should be worth at least $100. Probably more than 100, maybe 150, potentially 200 based on the sold comps. I'm going to designate these as shipping either FedEx, SmartPost, or UPS ground and ship them that way. Do not ship boots priority unless you absolutely have to for some reason. I don't know what that reason would be, but just don't do it. Another pair of Duluth cargo shorts. These may be women's. I'll try to look up the style code. Let me check the pockets here. Yeah, those might be women's. So one of the tells that a pair of pants or shorts is for women is that the pockets are relatively shallow. It can be tough to gauge that sometimes, depending on the brand. Jeans are easy. Pockets in women's jeans are this deep, presumably because these companies want your lives to be less convenient. Fox Racing, pair of chino shorts. These were half off of $5 was the price for all shorts. So these were all $2.50. I really love picking up Fox. You don't make a ton of money with them, but really reliable brand for me. Another really reliable brand, especially in jeans, Ariat. They do boots as well. These are size 12, probably women's. Let's do the test. Yeah, these were in the boys section, and I almost never look at kids clothing, except that the men's section was pretty small at this place, and I kind of had the high of getting all the good finds, plus it was sales day, or sale day. That's actually a pretty good tip. I should do that more. If you look in the kids section, you'll often find women's clothing, and you'll often find smaller men's sizes. It's a good tip for if you're just shopping for yourself too, and if you're a little micro machine like me. I wear like 30 waist, 31 inch inseam jeans, and most thrift stores just rack those in the women's section or in the kids section. Pair of 560s. Haven't found these in a long time. I love Levi's 560s. They're not as hot as they were way back, what was it, a year ago when I put out that hit blockbuster hyper viral video that changed the nation. I talked about 560s being my favorite Levi's to sell. I probably still believe that. They're all vintage. They don't make them anymore as far as I know, and they at least used to flip for like 50, 60 bucks, probably more like 30, 40 now, but still half off of 7. Really strong sell-through on Levi's 527s. I have a breakdown in the Menswear Manifesto of all of the standard cuts of Levi's based on sell-through. There's a link to the manifesto in the description. It's 330 men's clothing brands broken down by sell-through rate and by category. It's free if you want it to be free. It's a donation-based pricing structure, so figure out what you think it's worth, and I ask that you give me that for it. Another pair of Levi's 560s, and I really like these light washes for 560s. They're very on trend, or at least they were last time I sold 560s. These are made in Madagascar. If you find them made in USA, they're even more valuable. There's a pair of vintage 517s. I very rarely find 517s. Not that I shop jeans all that much these days. And they're not immaculate. They have these big lines, faded lines down the middles of the legs. The middles of the legs? The middle of the legs. But it is vintage. It has this papery vintage tag. That's one of the tells that Levi's are vintage. It's in pretty immaculate shape just in terms of this leather tag on the back. And the comps are pretty promising. And I got lucky. I pulled 50% off, so why not? I haven't looked this one up. This might actually be worth something or other. Probably not. It's probably in the 25 to 40 buck range, I would guess. Maybe less. Does that even give you any useful information? It could be between 5 and 100 or not. A Rick and Morty t-shirt. Rick and Morty just does really well for me. I don't even know what the numbers are, but every time I find Rick and Morty graphic tees, I tend to pick them up. T-shirts were $4, so these were all $2. What is this? Yeah, it is NASCAR. Some NASCAR driver. I know nothing about NASCAR, but plenty of people do, and NASCAR clothing can be pretty popular. I may end up keeping this. It's a men's small Patagonia. I think it's Capeline. It's this thermal. I wish I knew, maybe one of you know, the keyword for this kind of a fabric. That's the interior, where it's segmented into the little blocks. I don't know what the word for that is. That was half off of $7. Last clothing piece is a cinch button down. So I've said this 100 million times, but a button down shirt has the buttons on the collar. Button up has no buttons here. And you have to be careful because sometimes if you lift up the collar, there will be a hidden button under here. Those are still button downs. Cinch is a great brand. I don't find it all that much, but every time I do find it, I typically pick it up. It's kind of Western rodeo themed clothing, and the sell-through is great. I also, as I was standing in line, ran over and grabbed these out of one of the cases because there was an employee that happened to be standing right there. These are for me probably. I just saw German knife set on the side. Didn't see a price, or yes I did, 25 bucks. So I looked in the hopes that they were Henkel's knives, as those can be worth some pretty decent money, and they were. Probably can't see it all that well, but this is a really good knife manufacturer. And I kind of bought it on the fly, not really examining the knives all that closely. You can tell this has been sharpened many times because there's not a lot of... does this make you feel good? Is this comforting to watch? It's very dull, and it's been sharpened. It looks like it's been sharpened a bunch of times. It's kind of lost its shape. It's a little flat on the bottom here. Let's actually look this one up. So this, I guess, is not one of the more valuable lines. This chef's knife is probably worth 25. So if I can get these sharp enough, it's a pretty good deal. There are nicer Henkel's knives that can go for better money, 7,500 bucks for a chef's knife. Knives are surprisingly not that difficult to ship either. You just create a cardboard sleeve and make sure the sharp edge of the knife is set into the folded part of the cardboard, and then tape it over, and then tape it to the handle so it doesn't slip off during shipping, and then wrap it in bubble wrap or something and ship, and it'll ship just fine. It's really not that challenging to sell knives. Pick this up as well. Shaolin Against Wu-Tang 10 film collection. Can you guess why this film series is popular and in demand? This is worth between 30 and 50 bucks. It's a 3 DVD set, priced at standard price at Goodwill, probably $2 or $3. And last thing, I just stopped by a Goodwill bookstore on the way home, and I saw these sitting on the shelf. These are vintage copies of the entire Lord of the Rings cycle. These old covers. These are probably just gonna stay with me I'm not even a big Tolkien fan. I just really adore this era of the Tolkien covers. I'm really partial to them, and I had this book growing up. If I chose to sell these, I feel that they would be worth money. They're $1 each, so $4 total. I haven't looked up what they're worth. Let me check. Yeah, they're not worth all that much. There are this set essentially that sold for between 25 and 40. I guess this is just kind of a neat find for me. I will say, if you find a copy of The Hobbit with this cover and there's a lion on the grass right here, those are worth really excellent money. Those are very, very rare. Those were the first printing of the paperback, and Tolkien objected to the artwork. So if you're into books, I have a channel called Book Pilled at a link in the description that's about buying, selling, and mostly reading, mostly genre books. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Hope it gives you some ideas.